All right, guys. So we're continuing on with writing equations of lines, writing linear equations, and we're going to get a new formula today. You've probably seen this before, but we called this formula slope-intercept form. This is, or not slope-intercept, point-slope. So what we're looking at today is point-slope. Point-slope form of the line. And what it is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Well, the reason they call this point slope form is, well, actually it's pretty straightforward. Because what they give us is two things. Well, one of them is this here. Well, m is the slope. Yes. Yes.
Did you hear the announcement saying there was academic practice tomorrow? Or is that
I did not.
academic practice tomorrow?
There you go.
No, tomorrow? Yeah. For me.
All right, guys. Focus back in. And we have a point. x1, y1 is a point. So the reason they call this point slope form is because, well, we're given a slope and a point to be able to find the equation of the line. So whenever we write this in point slope form, or the reason we're writing in point slope form is because we're given a point and the slope. I mean, they kind of named it exactly what it was, yes? Well, we're using a point and slope, so let's call it point slope form. And one of the things you'll notice in a lot of stuff that especially we got from the Greeks, or decided to take from the Greeks, it's named exactly like it is. Because the one we've been doing yesterday, the one we used yesterday was slope-intercept. Well, what are the two main components? The slope and the y. So they called it slope-intercept form, kind of based off what it's named after. So the first few that we're going to do is we're going to write this in slope-intercept form. We're going to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. M is our slope. Y1, x1 is our point. So when I look at this here, write the equation in point slope form of the line that passes through the point, negative 8,3, and has a slope of 1/4. So did they give me a point and a slope? Yes. So what is the slope? It is 1/4. So what part of this equation is slope? Well, the m, yes? So we're going to replace m with what? Because that's the slope. Questions on this here so far? Now, what's our point? Our point is negative 8,3, yes? So y1, well, that's going to be the y value, because here, for our given point, we're looking at it as x1 comma y1. We only really use that 1 to denote which one we're talking about. Kind of like with slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Just denoting the point. So what's the y value for our point? 3. So I'll plug it in for y1. And our x1 would be? Well, here a negative and negative would actually make a it's in point slope form. Questions on this here so far? We gotta look at the next one. Okay, write an equation in point slope form of the line passing through the point 1,6 and has a slope of negative 1/2. So again, we're still using the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So to find the equation, we're plugging in the slope and the point to find the equation of the line. We're plugging in the values for the slope and the point. Now, what is our value for slope? What's the slope? They told us is negative 1/2. Well, where is slope in this equation? It is our m. M is always going to stand for slope. So we're going to place m with negative 1/2. Now, the y1 and x1 is a point. It's just the values of a point. And we need a point to be able to plug in to find the equation of the line. So what is a point we can use? Well, they gave us one here, didn't they? 1,6, and we can plug it in. So what value would we plug in for y1? 6, because the value of y for this point is 6. What would be the x value for this point? This is in point slope form. Because we don't have any minusing negatives, we can leave it as this here. That's it. Questions on this here? We're ready for the next one. Okay. Well, let's look at this one here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So on this one here, they gave us the slope. They told us the slope is negative 2. So we'll plug in negative 2 for m because it is the slope. The slope for this line is negative 2. Now we need our point because for this to work, we need slope and a point. So what's the y value of our point? Well, we have it right here. It would be negative 1. And the x value, well, here the negative and negative would just make a. And that's it. That's all we have to do for this here. Questions on this here? I have a feeling on the assignment, they're really just going to have you take this as write it like this here because you're just filling in the boxes for y1, m, and x1. You're just filling in those three numbers.
So, I would make the top.
It just depends because if they give you, because they're going to give you three boxes. If there's already minus and minus there, we're going to put negative 1. Because I have a feeling it's going to be like this here. Fill in the boxes. So we know the y value is negative 1, slope is 2, negative 2, x value is negative 3. We're just filling in those three spots. Questions on this here? All right. Let's look at one more and then we'll move on. So looking at this here, what is the slope? Negative 2/3, because that's what they told us. And they gave us a point, 4, 0. So the y value would be, and the x value would be? Really, I would simplify that, but That's what they're going to look for. They're wanting a value in both spots. That's it. Questions on this here? Here? It's always going to come in the form of xy. A point, whenever we're given a point, is always come in the form of xy. X is always going to be first. It's always going to come in the form of x comma y when we're given a point. Any other questions? Write an equation in slope-intercept form for this here. Slope-intercept form. Now, what we're wanting to get to is y equals mx plus b. This is what we did yesterday. We wrote equations in y equals mx plus b form. Now, yesterday they gave us the slope and the y-intercept, so it was kind of easier to work with. Did they give us the y-intercept for this year? No, we don't know what the y-intercept is. This is why this formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, is helpful. Now, we do have a point. We actually have 2 points, yes? Now, we went through yesterday and found the slope using the equation for the slope. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This will give us the equation of slope. But I have 2 points here, yes? If I want to find slope, well, it's the change in y over the change in x. So what's the change in y? Well, it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4. We go down 4. We're minusing 4. Because slope is the same as rise over run. How much did it change in the y-axis and how much did it change in the x? Well, it went down 4, and down is always negative. So it decreased by 4. Now the run, how far did we go over? To right, and right is always going to be positive. Up and right are both positive, down and left are negative. What is negative 4 divided by 2? Negative. So the slope for this equation is negative 2. The slope for this equation is negative 2. So looking at this here, so for me to be able to use this equation, I would need a slope and a point. Do I have the slope? Do I have a point? I have 2 points, actually, yes? So what we can do, y minus, I can plug negative 2 in for the slope. Which point do we want to use? Well, it actually doesn't matter. Which point do y'all think would work better? Do we want to use 1, 2, or 3, negative 2? 3, negative 2. We'll use this point here. So I have to put the y value in first over here. So what is the y value for this point? Negative 2. So over here, we're going to plug in negative 2. And what's the x value? 3. Any questions on this here? Any questions on how we found the slope and plugged it in, or plugging in our point? Is this in the form that we want it to be in? Well, we want it in slope-intercept. We want it in y equals mx plus b. How to get negative 4? So we started at this point here, and we went down to 1, 4, and it'd be negative because we're going down. Okay. Well, we can make it in this form by getting y by itself, by solving. Well, when I look at this equation here, well, here, a negative and negative. So here, on the left side, we have y plus 2 is equal to. We're going to multiply through by the negative 2. That's what I'm wanting to solve. I'm wanting to get this equation where y is by itself. So we have to do some simplifying. We didn't have to do this on the first few problems, but we're doing this here so that in the end, I'm going to get an equation where I have y equals mx plus b. Now, negative 2 times x is going to be negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 3. A negative and a negative would make a. 2 times 3 would be 6. Any questions on this here so far? Any questions on anything we've done so far? What is with the y? What other values with y? We have the what? What's with y? What's on the same side of the equation as y? The 2, isn't it? Is that what we want? Well, no, we want y by its. So if I want to get the y by itself, I need to do what to both sides? I need to subtract 2. Because positive 2 minus 2 would be 0, giving me y by itself, yes? Y is by itself? Okay. Negative 2x, because we would do 6 minus 2, because they are like terms. And what is 6 minus 2? So the equation of this line in slope-intercept form is y is equal to negative 2x plus 4. And that's it. That is all we have to do for this one here. Any questions on this problem here? Because once we found the slope, we plugged in our point, got y by itself. Let's look at another one. Let's look at this one here. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. So we're still going to use our y minus y1 n times x minus x1 here. Because it didn't directly give us the y-intercept. It didn't directly give us the y-intercept for this here. Now our slope is going to be rise over run. So when I look at this here, well, how far did we go over? We went over 1, 2, 3. And since we're going to the right, the 3 would be positive or negative? Positive, because right is positive. And then we would go up. So we went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would the 6 be positive or negative? Because we're going up. So our slope would be 6 over 3, which is 2. The slope would be 2. Questions on this here? Y minus. So I can plug in 2 for my slope. Now, what point are we going to use? 4, 6. We can use 4, 6. It doesn't matter which point we use. Either one will work. So what would be my y1 value? It would be 6. It would be the y value of that point. And the x value would be 4. Any questions on any of this here? Now we want this in y equals mx plus b form. We want to get the value of y by itself. So to get the value of y by itself, well, first, I'm going to have to multiply the 2. I need to simplify those parentheses. Because it's going to be easier to work with. Well, 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times negative 4 will be negative 8. Because 2 times x will be 2x. 2 times 4, negative 4, will be negative 8. Any questions on any of this here? Is y by itself? Well, we have y minus, so y isn't by itself, because we have the minus 6. Because we're really wanting this to be in the form y equals mx plus b. So we want nothing else with y. Yes. We're going to add 6 to both sides. Because negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Those will cancel, giving me and leaving me with y by itself. Now the 2x is going to stay the same because 6 and 2x are not like terms. They both don't have a value of x. And we would do negative 8 plus 6, which would give us negative 2. And that's it. Questions on this here? Are we good with this here? Yes? Yes. Huh. Okay. Okay. Hopefully y'all are getting this. Yes? We're good. We're okay with this here? Okay. Now this here, what we're looking at with this here, seems like they've changed everything completely. Write a linear function f with values f of 4 equals negative 2 and f of 8 equals 4. We have this one here. Yep. Now what this is telling us, and what this is saying really, is our point. F of 4, well, the x value is going to be 4 for that point. And the y value, the value that comes out of that function, is going to be negative 2. So f of 4 equals negative 2. Really what this is saying is that I have a point at 4, negative 2. The input, the x value, is 4 when I input it into the function. The output, the y value that comes out of the function, would be negative 2. And the other point would be 8, 4. Now, unfortunately, they did not give us a graph, did they? So we have to go back to what we did yesterday. We can't use the rise and run. So I'm going to have to use slope formula. Or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we put the y values on top. What y value is going to go first? 4. 34 minus negative 2 on top. Since we use 4 first, 8 has to go first on bottom. 8 minus 4. Well, on top, a negative and a negative would make a. So 4 plus 2 is? 8 minus 4 is? And 6 divided by 4 would simplify to 3/2. So the slope for this here is 3/2. Any questions on any of this here? Any questions on anything we've done so far? Now I'm going back to slope intercept because, or not slope-intercept, slope-point. Slope-intercept is what we want to get to. But were we given a y-intercept? Because the y-intercept is 0, comma, a number, because whenever the x value is 0, that'd be our y-intercept. Well, we're not told that. So I can't use slope-intercept immediately. I go back to point-slope, because we do have a point and we do have the slope. Now the slope is 3/2. So we can plug it in first. Now what would be a point that we can use? What point would we use for this here? 8, 4. Since 4 is the y value, we would plug 4 in for y1. And we would plug 8 in for x1. Plug the point in. Any questions on any of this here? Are we good with this here so far? Yes? Okay. To get this in y equals mx plus b form, the first thing we have to do is distribute the 3/2. Now, I don't have to do anything to the y minus 4 yet. I'm just going to leave it as is. There's no minus negatives, nothing to simplify. Because I'm not going to start moving anything until we have everything kind of simplified on both sides. Now, 3/2 times x, well, that would be 3/2 x. Because when we multiply by the x term, it's just going to be whatever the slope is times x. It's just going to be that. Now, 3/2 times 8. What would that be? Because 3/2 times 8, when we multiply that, we're going to do 8 times 3. We multiply by just the numerator, not the denominator. So what that would be, it'd be 3 times 8 on top over 2. Well, 3 times 8 is 24, and 24 divided by 2 would give me 12. And it would be negative 12 because the 8 is negative. Questions on this here? Okay, is y by itself? No, we have y minus 4, so what do we need to do to both sides? We need to add 4 to both sides. And when I add 4 to both sides, we get y is equal to 3/2 x. Well, negative 12 plus 4 would be negative 8. And that is it. Questions on this here? Any questions on any of this here so far? All right. We ready to look at one more? Yes? Okay. This is the last one we're looking at. This is the last problem we have. Now, the real tricky thing with this here is just remembering that the number inside the function f of 8, okay, hold up. I know this is, if I don't say something, this is going to trip you all up, especially on the homework. They're going to write they're going to ask for f of x. F of x and y are the exact same thing. F of x and y are the exact same thing for function notation. So saying that this equation here, y is equal to 3/2 x minus 8, is the exact same thing as saying f of x equals 3/2 x minus 8. Those are the same thing. F of x and y are interchangeable. F of x and y are interchangeable. Okay? Okay. So let's look back at this here. Now here what we're saying is the point is negative 8, 1. F of x. The function inside the parentheses is our x, what we're plugging in. F of x our x value is 8. And whenever we plug 8 into the function, we get the y value of -1. Now for our other one, we plugged in 6 for x and got a value of 0 for y. Do I have my y-intercept for this here? Because the y-intercept is when the value of x is 0. This here, it is an intercept. It's not the y-intercept, it's the x-intercept. Because we will have an x-intercept when the value of y is 0. So that will be tricky. Be careful of that. Just because we have a 0 as one of the values doesn't mean it's a y-intercept. But what this does mean is that we can still find the slope and still use our point slope formula to find the equation of this line. So let's find the slope first. So we plug in our y values on top. So what number would we use first out of our two y values? 0. We can do 0 minus -1. Since we use 0 first, 6 has to go first on bottom because that point goes first. Y1, x1, or y2, x2. Those 2 points have to go first. Those 2 numbers have to go first. Since -1 was second, our 8 will go second. Well, here a negative and a negative would make a, well, I just have 1 on top because 0 plus 1 is 1. 6 minus 8. So our slope here is -1/2. So the slope of this function is -1/2. Any questions on how we got the slope? Are we good with this here? Okay. Now we can come back up to our equation. And we can plug -1/2 in for the slope. Now, which one of these 2 points do we want to use? Use the one with 0. Because if I have a point with 0 as either the x or the y, I'm going to use it. And let's see why. Let's see how this works. So the y value for this is 0, yes? So over here I'm going to plug in. And the x value would be, okay? Any questions on how we got to this point here? How we got to y minus 0 equals -1/2, parentheses, x minus 6, close parentheses. Okay. What is y minus 0? Just y by itself, because subtracting or adding 0 doesn't change anything. Hey, is y by itself? Well, yes, we just have to simplify those parentheses, and then we are done. That's it. Well, -1/2 times x will be -1/2 x. Well, -1/2 times -6, the negative and negative would give us a, what is 1/2 times 6? Half of 6 would be 3. And that's it. If we use the other point, we would have gotten the exact same thing. Huh? Because if we used 8, -1, I'll show you this here. Because -1 and 8, well, this would end up being y plus 1 equals -1/2 x plus 4. Well, is y by itself for this one here? Which is this y equals -1/2 x plus, it's the exact same, yes? Yep, you keep those. So it really doesn't matter which point we use, as long as we keep the x and y values in the correct spots. But that is it. That is all we are doing for